Okay, a lot of people might really dislike this movie because, oh, it's just one giant 2-hour toy commercial for Legos. There's two things I have to say about that. One, it's called the fucking Lego Movie. If you're going into this movie, expecting and not expecting, some type of advertisement or marketing for Legos, you're setting your own self up for disappointment, okay? And you're just an idiot, okay? It's called the Lego Movie. That's kind of something you have to expect with this movie. And two, the advertising really worked. I mean, that's probably the biggest challenge with this movie. I mean, try watching this movie and not wanting to go out to your local Toys R Us or Target afterwards and just buying a shit zillion Lego sets to put together. Put these down before I break. I should crazy glue them if I didn't want them to break, but that's, neither here nor there. But yes, this is my first impressions of the Lego Movie. This video is coming up extremely late, I know, because I just now got to see the movie. I didn't have money at the time the movie first came out, so I'm now just getting around to seeing it. That's why this video is coming up as late as it is, but I have something to make up for that. Tomorrow I will have my review up for Justice League War, so that kind of makes up for it. Sorry this video is late, but I have my review up for Justice League War tomorrow, so look forward to that. But we're not here to talk about Justice League War, we're here to talk about the Lego Movie. Probably the closest thing that we're going to get towards a good Justice League movie, and the Justice League isn't even really in the movie. They have maybe, I think each character, with an exception to Batman, has maybe like 1-2 lines, maybe. But that is something I do want to talk about. Me talking about the Lego Movie, my first impressions, as you can tell from the title, this is a part of Bat Year because Batman plays a huge part in this movie. Also, there's like 2 other actors who've been in Batman movies before, Morgan Freeman, Liam Neeson, so it's a fucking Batman movie, in my opinion. It's technically a Batman movie. And also, it's Batman's only on-screen appearance in a theatrical movie this entire year, so yeah, it's Batman material, so this is going to be a part of Bat Year or My Descent into Mystery or whatever I'm calling it. I got like 50 names for it, but anyways, again, neither here nor there. Let's talk about the Lego Movie, my first impressions of it. These are just my thoughts after seeing the movie. They may change later when I see the movie on DVD or whatever, but I don't think they're going to change, man, because this movie this is great. This was a not perfect movie, but the movie that I wanted to be so damn much. As I said in one of my previous videos before, this was my most anticipated movie of the year, and it met all expectations. It met every single last expectation, and then excelled, and, just did so many different things that really made me love this movie. This is now one of my all-time favorite animated films ever, and may very well be my favorite animated movie of all time, which really says a lot. Yes, my favorite animated movie wasn't a Disney movie, wasn't even a Pixar movie. It was a animated Lego movie from Warner Brothers. That's a big shock. It might be a shock to you. Well, it's a shock to me because I wasn't expecting this to be my favorite animated movie of all time. I mean, when I first heard that they were doing a Lego movie, I was already thinking it was going to suck ass. I was already thinking it was going to be just a giant travesty. What I was expecting when they announced that was they were going to do another one of those horribly animated straight-to-DVD Lego movies that they've already made, but just release it in theaters. I was thinking that the best thing we could get towards a good, theatrically released Lego movie was, like, maybe a biopic about the history of Lego, like the company of Lego. But when they announced that they were doing, like, a Lego movie with little Lego characters, I was expecting the worst. Like, those straight-to-DVD animated Lego movies? I was expecting that. Like, those animated cartoons, like Ninjago or Legends of Chima, whatever, like that animation, but in a 2-hour movie in theaters. That was what I was expecting, and I was just expecting the worst from this movie. But when casting started to get announced and trailers and marketing material started to pop up, I got hyped. I got really, really, really excited, and I just set my expectations so high, and they were met, which is really sad because this is a fucking Lego movie, which you would think is just going to be a big, giant advertisement for, well, as the title says, Legos, but it actually meets all my expectations, and yet some big, Hollywood blockbusters in the summer or big movies at the end of the year don't meet my expectations. But it's the movie about little plastic building blocks that meet all my expectations. Hollywood? That's really fucking sad. Really sad. I mean, this movie I actually found to be more entertaining than probably some big blockbusters with, $250 million budgets in the last few years. That's how entertaining this movie was. It's now one of my favorite animated movies of all time. May very well be my favorite animated movie of all time. And I think what I admire, one of the things I admire the most about this movie is just how I walked out of it with the biggest grin, the biggest smile, the biggest, happiest mood that I could possibly ever be in after walking out of the movie. And I have never walked out of an animated movie like that. Well, I have, but not in a very, very long time. Like, I know I said, I loved Frozen, I gave Frozen a great review, but I didn't walk out of that with, saying, oh, I'm just in the happiest mood now, after seeing Frozen. I walked out of it saying, it was a great movie. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really great. Definitely a great animated movie I think a lot of people should see. I didn't walk out of it, in that happy, happy mood. This I did, and I haven't, walked out of an anime movie like that in a long-ass time. And to give you guys an idea of when the last time that was, it was like maybe when I was like a really little kid, and I saw, some animated movie when I was a little, really little kid. That's what this movie did to me. It really made me feel like I was 7 years old again, just watching any given random animated movie. It's literally one of the happiest movies that I can possibly think of. And that's really odd to, describe a movie. Oh, was the movie, how was the movie? It was just really, really happy. That's the best way I can describe it. Just after walking out of the theater, try not to be in a good mood. This is one of those movies where I can see in the future, it's going to be a movie I watch a lot when I need a lot of cheering up, like when I'm in a bad situation, when I'm a little bit depressed, or just when I have a lot of bad stuff going on, and I watch this movie to really, tide me over and to really help me through those bad times. That's what I see this movie doing, and I have a lot of movies that do that for me, but this really, really does helped me through a lot of bad times. I can see this movie really helping me through a lot of bad times, which I love movies that can do that. Even bad movies, I like bad movies are so bad that they're actually kind of funny and actually kind of entertaining, can really do that too. But this movie really was a great movie, and it's just a really happy, feel good, fun movie. That's for kids as well as for adults. I think it's just as much as for adults as it is kids, if not more for adults, which, as you guys all know, I love any kind of animated material that can be both for kids and adults. I've said that enough about Young Justice and Green Lantern, the animated series, and I love that. These are what I like to call family movies, where they're not just for kids, they're for families. What I consider to be kids' movies are, movies that only kids can find entertaining, and, adults can't find anything in it that's either entertaining or interesting. This movie is a family movie because kids will find it entertaining, teenagers will find it entertaining, adults will probably find it very entertaining and nostalgic, because they probably grew up with Legos before and played with them a lot. So I love this movie. This is one of the best family movies I've ever seen in my entire life, and it's definitely one of those movies that I'm just going to watch, through and through, just to be entertained and just, and if I'm ever in a bad situation or a bad time, this is going to be one of those movies that really helps me through those bad times. Just puts you in such a great mood. You can be in the shittiest mood going into this movie and be in the happiest mood coming out of this movie. That's one of the biggest respects I can give to this movie. Already there, this movie is going to get a good rating for me just based on that alone. But one of the other things I absolutely loved about this movie was the cast. The cast was stellar. The cast was amazing. They all turned in 100% pure, perfect performances. They were one of the many things that was making me want to see this movie the most. You had actors like Chris Pratt, Elizabeth Banks, Morgan Freeman, Liam Neeson, Charlie Day, Allison Brie. It's a lot like movie 43, where it's hard to think of which actors they didn't get, to be in the movie. Like, which actors that they, couldn't get. But unlike movie 43, this movie doesn't make me envy cancer patients, because it actually was, believe it or not, good and not the worst movie of all time. The cast was just amazing, and again, they all turned in great performances. I want to talk about Chris Pratt for a second. This dude is simply the most likable person working in Hollywood today. He's personally one of my all-time heroes. He's one of my all-time favorite actors. He's one of my heroes, one of the people I just look up to the most. He's just the most likable living being, probably not only working in Hollywood, just probably living on this planet. Just give you an idea of how likable this guy is. He plays the character Andy Dwyer on Parks and Recreation, and originally that character was just supposed to be a simple character that was just supposed to be, simple walk by. That's all he, simple character that appears here and that's it. He was always supposed to be in the first season, but his character was so likable in that first season alone, and what little screen time he had in that first season alone, that they actually brought him back and made him a main character throughout all the rest of the series. That's how likable this guy is, and that's how likable some of the characters that he plays are, and how likable he makes those characters alone. This dude is simply the most likable actor I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, every single last character that he's played to date, you just want to give the biggest goddamn hug in the entire world. He's just that goddamn likable. I mean, he's just one of the most likable people of all time, if not the most likable person of all time. He's just a great actor. Each and every single character he plays is so sympathetic and likable. And you can bet your sweet ass I am expecting him to turn in a great performance. And you can bet your ass I am looking forward to him being Peter Quill, Star-Lord, and Guardians of the Galaxy. That right now is my most anticipated movie of the year, because I just saw the Lego Movie, which was originally my most anticipated movie of the year. Just saw it, so Guardians of the Galaxy is now my most anticipated movie of the year. All of a sudden, Chris Pratt has just been getting a lot of shit ton of work. I mean, respectfully so, I think he's a great actor, but he's just been all of a sudden getting a shit ton of work. I mean, he was originally just, one, simple character on a simple show, Parks and Recreation, and then all of a sudden he's getting roles, for big movies left and right. He got this movie, he got Guardians of the Galaxy. He just recently got Jurassic Park 4, which originally I was not at all looking forward to Jurassic Park 4. In fact, I was actually not going to go see that movie until he was casted, which, that's the number one rule for me personally. If Chris Pratt's in your movie, I'm going to go see it. Even if the movie looks like utter crap, I'm going to go see it. Like Delivery Man. Thought it was going to be shit. Saw Chris Pratt was in it, even though he was in a small role. I saw it, and, just because Chris Pratt was in it. Chris Pratt is just simply one of my favorite actors working today in Hollywood. Simply one of my favorite actors, period, and he's just one of my personal heroes. He's just an awesome, really, looks like he's a really likable dude. And he simply plays some of the most likable characters of all time. And he does that here. He plays another great likable character, Emmett, the ordinary, generic Lego construction worker, who, that is something about this movie I can kind of see some people complaining about, which is the movie's plot is very similar to that of The Matrix or the Star Wars movies, where it's one character who seems to be an ordinary guy, not a care in the world, but he actually turns out that he's part of a prophecy, or he's part of, he's a special person, and he has the ability to, stop the world from being taken over by this person, It's very similar to those movies. But that's actually kind of justified, which I will get into in a minute why it's kind of justified when I get into some of the spoilers, or will be spoilers in this video, if you couldn't tell by the title. But, I thought that was actually kind of justified, and I'll get into that in a minute. But I thought he played this character really great. Another great sympathetic character, really likable character that Chris Pratt has played. And I just love this character overall. I like that every single other character in the movie was a really special, really creative looking character, and he was just the generic Lego construction worker, which I thought made it kind of relatable to everyone else, because we're all just kind of, the average Joe, not care in the world person, and we can kind of relate to that kind of character in any kind of movie. So I really enjoyed that. I thought that was really cool. Again, every single other actor in this movie turns in a great performance. Morgan Freeman as Mystic Lego Dude. I know his name, but I just don't know how to pronounce it. Mystic Lego Blind Man Dude who can, for some reason, see everything. As a running theme in a lot of movies and TV shows and comic books, the blind character isn't really blind. In fact, they can probably see better than most people with actual functioning eyesight. I don't know, like Daredevil, that dude from Quest for Camelot, and now this dude. It's very, very odd. Again, these characters can seem better than, most people with, working eyes. But I digress. Elizabeth Banks as Wildstyle, did great. And there's just so many other actors that play small, minor roles, but still leave a huge impact. Charlie Day as Benny the spaceman, he was really awesome. But again, I just probably love this character because Charlie Day was playing him. Charlie Day's awesome in anything. Alison Brie as that unicorn cat thing, which was just adorable. She herself was adorable, so having her play that character was just perfectly fitting. And then we have the thing I want to talk about the most. Will Arnett as Lego fucking Batman. Holy shit. This was my most expected, most anticipated thing in this entire movie, seeing a comedic Batman. I mean, we now live in a world, people, where we are so used to seeing Batman in an extremely serious light and Batman in an extremely, gritty light. In almost every single last Batman material, from TV shows to video games to the comic books to the movies, Batman is always now just a really gritty, taken really seriously, superhero, which I'm not at all complaining about. I mean, that's the reason, I'm not at all complaining about that in any way, shape, or form. But it was just a really refreshing to see a funny take, like a really comedic take on Batman for, once, because I do think you kind of need that every once in a while. Like, hey, this dude just loved like a bat and fights crime. You can kind of make fun of it here and there. It doesn't have to be serious all the time. So I was glad that they finally did that in this movie. Now, one thing I was not hoping for in this movie was he was just kind of gonna take over the movie. Like, he was gonna overshadow everything, and he was just gonna, take all the funny jokes and take all the screen time. But that's not what happens at all. They pace him very, very well. They give him enough scenes to the point where it's not annoying, and he is funny, and he, does have a lot of great lines, but he doesn't overshadow any of the other characters. He's a side character, which I thought was fine. I like that he was a side character and they gave the main characters their own screen time and they were the forefront and he was in the background. I was very happy about that, but he still did have a lot of great lines. And Will Arnett just did a fucking amazing job as, as Lego Batman. He did a great job. His voice is extremely deep, so it was very, easy to see him as Batman. Still a better casting decision than Ben Affleck, by the way. He just did amazing. I love Will Arnett. I think he's one of the funniest actors working in Hollywood today. Just his voice just creates a very dry, very humorous, comedic, timing. His voice just creates very dry humor, and I'm a huge fan of dry humor. So I thought he did great as Batman. I thought he was a perfect casting choice for Batman. And personally, while he did play a comedic Batman here, I think he could voice a great, serious Batman. I would actually like to see him maybe in a future DC animated movie, or as a cameo in some upcoming Batman animated TV show. I don't know. I think he could play a serious Batman, if given the right work and given the right material. But I thought he did a great job as Lego Batman in this movie. He was one of the best parts in the movie, and glad and thankfully that he didn't overshadow the entire movie. That was a big worry for me personally. But he didn't overshadow the entire movie, which is great. I really appreciated that. They did, pace him well, and they did keep him back a little bit, so I was very happy about that. And the cast I thought was, great in the movie. They made me want to see the movie the most. That about does it for, that. The movies, it was just great overall. It was really funny, too. The movie has a very fast-paced, really energetic humor in it, which is kind of expected with the guys who made this movie, who are Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who did Cloudy with Chance of Meatballs and 21 Jump Street. And if you saw Cloudy with Chance of Meatballs, it's expected to see the really fast-paced, energetic humor in this movie. But something I really appreciated in this movie, and that's something I also appreciated in Cloudy with Chance of Meatballs, was, even though it's really fast-paced humor, and even though it doesn't, it doesn't seem like it's going to light up, it does. And there are moments where, You know, there are slow moments, there are quiet moments, there's moments where the kids, you know, who are watching the movie can really soak in the quiet moments and really catch up and really take a breather and really take a break from all this fast-paced stuff that's happened before. I love, 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 love kids' movies that can do that, that have this really fast-paced humor, but can say and have moments where it's like, hey, let's, you know, take a break quick and really let the kids soak in everything that's happening. I really love and I really appreciate kids' movies that can do that. And these guys, holy shit, they've made 3 movies so far, and they've just gotten better and better and better. I loved Cloudy with Chains and Meatballs, love 21 Jump Street, and I fucking love this movie. They just get better and better and better. These guys need to have, like, every single comedy in Hollywood now. Like, you got a shitty script for a shitty comedy. Get these guys to rewrite that shit, because they will make it amazing. Like, if there was a comedy award for the Oscars, these guys would fucking win that, you know, without a doubt. You know, they would win that in a landslide. I mean, these guys have made 3 movies so far. 2 of those movies have been animated, and those 2 animated movies have made me laugh my ass off. I love 21 Jump Street. That movie made me laugh my ass off too, but, you know, they made 2 animated movies, and those animated kids movies could make me laugh. 2 animated kids movies could make me laugh more than some comedies that are actually out there, that are actually written by, you know, talented writers and talented people. That's really, really sad. It's almost like how this movie can actually be more entertaining than some action blockbusters that come out later in the year that have like $250 million budget. But, you know, that's, again, you know, I'm going off track. And then there's also something I want to talk about, which is the animation for the movie. Now, I'm still a little bit unclear of how the movie was done. From what I hear, some of it was done with stop-motion animation, some of it was done with 3D animation, then some people say that it was completely done with 3D animation, which is the thing that I'm falling under. So I'm just going to say it was done with 3D animation, and it was also done with 2D, or, well, not 2D, a stop-motion animation, which, goddamn, you could not tell what was what. I mean, going into this movie, I was under the assumption that it was, you know, stop-motion animation, because it's easy to do for Legos. I mean, kids on the internet do it all the time, so, going into this movie, I was under the assumption that this was going to be stop-motion animated, but it was done somewhat in, you know, 3D. There was some 3D animation added to it. But, holy shit, you cannot tell one bit what was CGI, what was 2D animated, because it's so well blended together and so well made and so well done. And that's what CGI, I always have said, you know, should be used when it's necessary, and also when it can really trick an audience into thinking whether or not that was an effect, or this is actually something that you're seeing in front of the camera. Like Christopher Nolan said, you know, I don't know when he said it, I don't know when he said it, but he said something a while ago, like, you know, he likes to use CGI when, it can really trick an audience. And that's the way that the CGI is used here, when it really, you know, can trick the audience into thinking if that's, you know, CGI or if that's, you know, 2D and stop-motion animation. And they did that perfectly here. And what they did was they actually gave the Legos that are in front of the camera actual texture and actual, they actually gave the texture of Lego figures. Like, the texture of Legos, they have, like, a certain, you know, they have, you know, the plasticky texture, but they also have, you know, the little holes and the little, you know, prints on Legos, on the little bricks. And at some points, they even made it look like there were little fingerprints on the Lego pieces themselves, which I thought was great. It just made it look like, you know, stop motion animated. And it was so hard to tell what was CGI, what was, you know, 2D animated, if this was done, you know, half and half. Some stuff like, there's a moment in the movie where there's a huge ocean and nothing is made like artificial water, like you know, water in a cup or whatever. It's not like artificial water that we have. It's literally, the water is made out of Lego studs and Lego bricks, which is just goddamn fascinating, and it really adds to the notion that you can make anything out of Legos nowadays. You know, fires, explosions, you can make anything out of it. And again, it's hard to tell whether or not it was done with stop motion or CG. I mean, I guess it's a safe bet that we can say it was done with CGI. I mean, it probably would have taken 5 years alone to do that whole, you know, water effect with all the Lego stuff if it was actually done in stop motion. But you couldn't really tell. You can say that, you know, yeah, it was CGI, but there was a possibility it was a stop motion effect, which was great. I really like that, and that's what I've always said CGI should be used for, when it can really trick people into thinking, was that an effect or was that something that was actually placed in front of the camera? I thought that was great. I thought that was really, really impressive as all hell. I thought that was just a great feat for CGI animation, especially in a kids movie. Again, I think CGI. My main problem with CGI is that it looks obvious, and it looks, a CGI effect appears on screen. You know, you can just point out CGI effect. But here, good luck finding any CGI effect in the movie because it was hard as hell. I mean, there's some parts in the movie where there's a lot of stuff going on, and you can safely bet that, oh, that's probably where the CGI was used. But again, you could be wrong. There's a possibility it was probably done in a stop. There's a possibility that it was a stop motion effect that was done. So that was just something I loved in the movie. It was really hard to tell whether or not it was stop motion animated or 3D animated. I do believe some stuff was done with stop motion, but definitely some stuff was done with CG animation, which, if this is the way that CG animation is going to be used with future films and with future, animated movies, then by all means use it, because this is how CGI should be used. And again, it's a fucking kids movie that did this. It's a kids movie that made me believe that a CGI effect was actually real and in front of a camera, and yet these big Hollywood blockbusters can't make me ever believe in that. Like any given Michael Bay movie with a CGI effect, it's like, it's a CGI effect, but the fucking building block movie, the little toys that you played with when you were a kid, that movie made me believe in CGI, and really made me question whether or not that was a real effect or whether or not that was a CG effect. That's really fucking sad, Hollywood. Get your shit together. But again, I digress. Don't always digress, so why fix it here? I think right now should be the time that we get into spoilers, which, again, a lot of spoilers here, as it says in the title. If you haven't seen the movie, do not watch the rest of this fucking video, because the movie is going to be ruined for you if you watch any of the spoiler segment for this video, because I know I've said that a lot before, but with some of my other first impressions videos, but I truly mean it here. The movie will be completely ruined, completely spoiled for you if you do watch the spoiler segment of this video. So that's a fair warning. I don't want to hear anyone bitching in the comments saying, why'd you spoil the movie? Why didn't you give me a, warning? I gave you a warning, so shut up. So let's talk about the spoilers here. Now, I think the main reason why, well, I'll explain actually. Now, throughout the movie, there's some hints that this is actually, sort of a figment of a kid's imagination, like the whole story of this movie, it's just a kid playing with Legos and everything, and it actually does turn out that is the case, that there is a kid who is actually just has this big giant Lego display, this big giant Lego City display, and is just playing with the Legos, and that's the whole story of the movie. And that's actually kind of the plot twist of the movie. They do hint at it very often throughout the movie, which, if I do have anything to complain about with this movie, that is one thing. There is a lot of predictable moments in this movie. There's a lot of moments early on in the movie where you're like, oh, gee, I wonder what that means. Like, earlier in the movie, Emmett talks about, he describes something that looks like, a human hand. Like, he says something like, like an eagle claw with, octopus tentacles, and then he thinks of a human hand, and a human hand forms out of the sky or whatever. And me sitting there was going, oh gee, I wonder what that means. And obviously it means that this is all just a, figment of a kid's imagination and everything. There was a lot of predictable moments like that in this movie. If there's anything that I did not like in this movie, I didn't like that. It was really predictable. But it does pay off. That was one thing I really loved in this movie. The fact that it does turn out that this is all just a kid's imagination. This is all just a kid playing with Legos. I think it was a nice sort of homage to pretty much what we all did as kids. We made these really ridiculous, really, exaggerated stories when we were a kid playing with Legos. And I think that's the reason why the story similarities between this movie and The Matrix or Star Wars is actually justified, because this is all a little kid, playing with Legos. Kids, usually go for and enjoy the really, the overdone, been there, done that stories from, with movies and comic books and video games and whatever. So it's kind of justified. I mean, it's a kid playing with Legos. So it's kind of justified why this movie would, be similar to, other movies. It's a kid playing with Legos. We kind of all did that when we were kids. Play with our Legos or play with our toys and made similar stories and whatnot. It's justified. It makes sense. And what it turns out to be is this kid is playing with his dad's giant Lego City Utopia display, and the dad doesn't want him doing that because the dad is a very organized person, and he, in fact, he's a very organized person. He doesn't want his, kid messing up, the Lego display and everything, and that's actually the whole plot of the movie. In the Lego world, there's this character named Lord Business, played by Will Ferrell, who did a great job, by the way. Again, the cast did a great job. Who actually wants to freeze the entire world with this magical device called the Kraggle, which I may be spoiling the entire movie right here. I will not dare spoil that joke. That joke was absolutely hilarious, and if you're at all familiar with Legos, you will laugh your ass off. I remember laughing so hard for so long when that joke was revealed. I'm not going to spoil it here. Go watch the movie. You will laugh your ass off, and then you'll come back and say, well, that's the reason why 1, 2, 3 movies rule didn't ruin it. But, again, digress. In the Lego world, there's a character named Lord Business, played by Will Ferrell, who wants to freeze the world using this magical device called the Kraggle. And the dad uses a similar device to, place all the stuff in order and place all of the, the Lego stuff and keep it all organized and keep it all one thing. And it turns out that the kid, because this is all a figment of his imagination playing with the Legos, based this, Lord Business character off of his father, who is actually Will Ferrell. There's a live-action segment at the end of the movie where this little kid, his father is Will Ferrell, and he actually does play the Lord Business character in the Lego world. And that was great. I love that so much. And what happens is, the father sees that this kid is messing up the Lego Utopia and starts to use the Kraggle to, place everything in their own places and make everything organized and make everything uniformed. And that was something that I really loved about this movie, the overall plot, which was this character wanting everything to be organized and, pristine and uniformed, when Legos just aren't that. In fact, they go on to explain in the movie that, they pretty much flat out say why Legos are, why Legos have thrived and why Legos have been around for as long as they have been, without just flat out saying it. Like, they flat out say it, but without flat out saying it, if that makes any sense, Like, Legos are, look how creative people have been with just, putting a bunch of random Lego pieces together and just making their own things and using their own creativity. And look what they made. It doesn't have to all be uniform. Just because there's rules doesn't mean that they have to be followed. You can be your own person. You can be creative. And that was something that I just loved with this movie. It made a comment on why Lego has been around and why Lego is a great toy and why Lego has, existed and why people have loved Lego and why kids and adults and just anybody has played with Legos at least once in their life. It's just something that I really appreciated and it really hit home. And that was the moment in this movie where I said, this is my favorite animated movie of all time. That was the moment where I just loved everything from start to finish. That was just the moment where where everything just came together and where everything just fit. You know, no pun intended, this being a Lego movie, where everything just worked, and that was just the moment where I said to myself, I love this movie. This is one of my favorite animated movies of all time. The message just was, you know, absolutely perfect for a Lego movie. Like, throughout the whole movie, the Lord business character, through, you know, some expository dialogue, is explained that, you know, he was a guy that there was all these, you know, different, you know, creative Lego worlds, and they could all, you know, go into each world, and they could all, you know, be with each other, and just, you know, be with, be with each other and interact. And then Lord Bitz was like, you know, this isn't ordered, you know, this isn't uniform. We need to keep it all separate. We need to keep it all organized. So he walled it off and, you know, kept each Lego character in their own, you know, solitary world. And where was I going with this? He's just trying to keep it organized and all pristine and uniformed. And this movie pretty much says the whole, you know, moral and the whole message of the movie is, you know, that doesn't have to be that way. You know, like Legos have, you know, have the instruction booklets and have all these, you know, rules to it, but that doesn't mean that they have to be followed. Lego has existed and is celebrated because of how creative. It's an outlet for creativity for kids, for people in general. It's one of the many things that, you know, people have loved, and the reason why it's thrived was because of how creative you can be with Legos, and how, you know, how it gives you an opportunity to be, you know, creative and to use your creativity. And that's something that's kind of stamped on throughout the entire movie. At the beginning of the movie, Emmett is just sort of a peon. He just follows the rules, follows the instructions, as well as everyone else in that giant Lego utopia does. And, you know, doesn't really do their own creative thing. It doesn't really do their own thing. They're all just kind of taking orders and following them. This movie just says, you know, you don't have to do that. You can be your own person. You can be creative. And that's a moral I think everyone can kind of relate to. And something that everyone can just, you know, love and really, you know, respect and really, you know, stand behind. And for a Lego movie, again, that fits perfectly because Lego, you know, that's the reason why Lego has existed. It's an outlet for creativity for everybody. When you get a Lego set, it may have instructions, but you can make those pieces, you can take those pieces and make it your own and really, you know, make it something else completely, something out of the box, something different and creative. And that, for the Lego movie, was fit perfectly. It fit like two Lego blocks coming together. It fit perfectly. And that was the point in the movie where I was just blown away. Where I just absolutely loved this movie, and just I said to myself, this is just my favorite animated movie of all time. And it really hit home, and it's really hard not to get kind of sad and not to get kind of, you know, teary-eyed at it. I actually was really happy. I actually kind of shed a tear. Not even kind of, I shed a couple tears, okay? I cried like a bitch, but you know what? I'm a huge fan of Lego. I've been a fan of Lego for so many years. This is something that accompanies all our childhoods, you know? People say that, you know, Disney is now sort of a part of our family. Disney is family. Well, you know what? I do agree with that, but I have to, you know, put my input is that Lego is now a part of our family, and Lego is now a part of our lives because it's something that we've all grew up with at one point, something that we've all had at one point to be, you know, creative with. It's an outlet. It's been an outlet for kids to be creative, and, you know, that's, you know, something that this movie perfectly accompanies and perfectly celebrates and perfectly reminds you of, to be creative, not only with Legos, but just with yourself, to think outside of the box, to just do your own thing and not follow the rules all the time. And that's why I love this movie so much, because that perfect message, that perfect moral, that about sums up Lego without flat out saying, hey, you want to know why Lego has been around for so long? Well, here's why. It was a great movie, and that's why I'm giving the Lego movie, you know, although with some of the problems I have with the movie, a perfect 10 out of 10. It's perfect 10 out of 10 for me. It's everything that a Lego movie should be, and then more. It's just a downright, it's the best possible Lego movie it's the best Lego movie that could have possibly ever been made. It's the best way I can sum it up. It's just a perfect Lego movie. Not perfect film, but, just it's a perfect Lego movie. But before I go, one other little problem that I kind of had with the movie was, at the end of the movie, again, like I said, it is revealed that the little kids, the whole movie's plot was just a little kid's, imagination with him playing with Legos. But then it turns out that the Legos actually, it's kind of like Toy Story where they can actually kind of move, which kind of confused me. Like, is it a figment of the kid's imagination, or are they actually alive? Like, Emmett falls out of the Lego universe and into the real world. And he can actually move around in the real world slightly, but he can still move around. Again, I thought it was a figment of his imagination, of the kid's imagination. Why was it, I thought it was just a figment of his imagination, but apparently they can actually move, so it wasn't a figment of his imagination. It's a big plot hole at the end of the movie. There is, I should probably rank it a little bit less than what I just gave it for that reason alone. But I still really enjoyed the hell out of the movie. All of the stuff that's so great about the movie just completely, outweighs all the bad in the movie. It's just a great, great movie. It's a really funny movie. That's the thing about Phil Lord and Chris Miller. These guys can make some of the, some really unfunny stuff, or some stuff that should be unfunny, like, extremely funny. Like, there's, 3 moments at least in the movie where they have a big thing come up on the screen that says, 5 hours later, or, 2 minutes later, or whatever. And for some reason, it was funny. Like, I laughed 3 times at pretty much the same joke. And yet they somehow really made it funny. I don't know how they could possibly make 3 or 4 words actually funny that are just on the screen. That's the joke. 4 words appear on the screen. That's what's funny. They somehow made that funny. I don't know how that's possible, but they did it. They really made that funny. And what else was I going to talk about? There's something else I really want to talk about. I'm forgetting. I don't want to forget it. The song. Everything is Awesome. God damn it, that is one of the most catchiest songs of all time. In fact, I mentioned how much I love the song Let It Go in Frozen, but I don't know which one I actually like more. I know I like comparing apples and oranges. There's almost no reason comparing because they're 2 completely different things, but I don't know which one I like more. I think I like Everything is Awesome just a little bit more because it's just extremely upbeat and extremely happy. But let's talk about the song quick. I love the song for just a bunch of different reasons, and one reason why I love it is because in the beginning of the movie, it's used as a song that's sort of there to keep the people in the Lego city sort of down, but subliminally. Like, it's a really happy, upbeat song, but it's supposed to keep them, in check and uniformed and in order, sort of subliminally. But at the end of the movie, it's actually used as a song of endearment and a song of encouragement to be creative and to, to show that everything that you think is special and awesome because you thought of that. And that's the reason why it's special and awesome. So I love that. I thought that was such a clever job. I thought they did such a clever job with the song alone. Because at first in the movie, it's used as a song to subliminally keep the people down. But at the end of the movie, it's actually a song used to encourage people and to make, it's a song used to say to people, the reason why what you think is special and creative and awesome is because you thought of that. I thought that was great. I thought that was really, really interesting. Maybe I'm just looking too deep into it, but I don't think I am. I think it's exactly what I just said. That I loved, and it's just a goddamn catchy song. I mean, Tegan and Sarah in the Lonely Islands, how the fuck can you go wrong with that? That alone just explains why the song is great. That about sums up my first impressions of the Lego movie. 10 out of 10. Perfect, perfect, perfect film. One of my favorite anime movies of all time. I don't think it's one bit overrated. Some people might be saying, it's an overrated movie. It's not. It's a perfect, perfect movie. It's great for kids. Just as great for adults. It's a perfect family movie. When I think of perfect family movies, I think of, Never Ending Story, The Goonies, and Lego Movie. Lego Movie is the number one, in my opinion, favorite. Number one family movie, number one animated movie. It's not one of my favorite movies, just simply of all time. So that's all I have to say about that. It's just a great movie. Go out and see it right now, please, because it's just downright amazing. Please go see it. So that's about it. Sorry the video was long, but videos are always long, so who cares? So I'll see you guys next time, or tomorrow, or my next video with my review of Justice League War. So I'll see you guys then.